All right, folks, I think we are up and running and good to go. So let's get everything loaded, make sure nothing explodes with my computer, and then we'll go ahead and get started with some Wild Hearts. Okay, I'm actually going to leave the game on mute for the moment, as I see Crusher is here. What's up, Crusher? Crusher Redeem drop a beat at the top of the stream, as usual. Iconic is also here. What's up, Iconic? How you doing today, my dude? Hope you're having a good Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Is it Wednesday, my dudes? Yes, it seems like I haven't seen you folks in a bit because I had kind of a short week last week. But we're back. And so let's see. I think we have everything. You won't be able to hear the game since I have it muted. We'll do the beat first. And then we will jump in with something new. So let's get it. All right. I only remember to turn my headphones on like 20 seconds into the beat this time. It's a new record. All right, let's get the game loaded back up. We should have volume. Music's going to be a little quiet while there's nothing actively going on. But the footage and everything else should be... There shouldn't be any issues with the footage. I have not streamed this before, so we are testing things and just flying by the seat of our pants today. So this is Wild Hearts. I mentioned, I think last week, or maybe the week before, that I was very much looking forward to the release of this game. This just came out literally last week. I've had some time with it hands-on, a little bit while I was on the road, and I've been playing it up through the week just to make sure I can actively know what I'm talking about for today's stream. And so this game is developed by Tecmo Koei, the Musou, Dynasty Warriors, Blank Warriors people, published by EA Originals. And this game is a brand new IP in the Monster Hunter-like genre. It is very similar and takes a lot of inspiration and ideas from Monster Hunter, things we've talked about kind of ad nauseum here on stream for my content, and puts a unique spin on it. This game is not a clone. It is definitely in the same genre, but it's not really a clone. It does a lot of things differently. It does a lot of things well, and that's what I want to show off because this is going to be taking the place of Monster Hunter here on the channel for a bit. I will say that the overall reception of this game has been a little bit mixed as far as overall experience, and I need to call that out for folks who are curious about the game or interested in checking it out. The main issue that people have been reporting kind of all over the place, and it hasn't really been isolated to just certain groups of people, both on PC and console, is performance optimization. All right. I think the Steam reviews are probably mixed, maybe mostly positive now. I don't know, it might be mixed because this game had some serious issues with optimization at launch, and it still does. I have a pretty decently powerful machine with the new graphics card that I got, And I'm running it right now at 1080 at 60. It's pretty stable. You'll see it stutter a little bit here or there, but overall, it's not game breaking. The environments look nice. I think they're a little more detailed than what we saw in Monster Hunter Rise because this is a newer game. But if I push this to 1440 60, it starts to get a little bit hairy. I'm gonna leave the settings here for now, and we'll see. They've rolled out an optimization patch this week, and I've heard it fixed things for some people. I didn't really notice a difference. Other people said it actually made the performance worse. And so the devs are actively working on the game. So my recommendation would be, unless you have a really, really powerful computer, you're probably good to wait a little bit and let them iron out the initial launch stuff. But aside from that, this game is a lot of fun. This is probably the strongest competitor to Monster Hunter in the genre to come out in any recent memory. This is by the same team that did Tokiden, which was on the Vita. And that one I talked a little bit about is very much Monster Hunter inspired and takes place in like a fantasy Japan type area. Wild Hearts is very similar, and it takes place in like a Japanese inspired area called Ozma, but it's not canonically related to Tokiden. And so what I want to do for the first part of the stream today, and again, for folks who haven't seen me talk about Monster Hunter games before, it's going to be a little bit heavy on the explanation in the beginning because I want to explain how combat and major gimmicks work, and then we'll jump into hunts so you folks can actually see the monsters, kind of the differences between this and what we've seen in Rise. And so this is my hunter. Her name is Kairis. We can go, let's see, inventory might show me the gear a little bit better. And this character is based on an OC of mine. You folks haven't seen anything with this character before, but I specifically modeled her after a character that I've drawn and have used for stories. And one thing that I do want to point out, you might be able to tell just based on the character model and everything, the character creation in Wild Hearts is very robust. You can create some incredible looking characters. You can create some horrific looking characters too. But as far as the facial feature options, the customization, it's leagues above what Monster Hunter has so far. It uses the same character customization from Nioh, the Nioh series, which I haven't played. But you can do a whole lot with the different parameters, kind of like a Souls type game, which you actively see your character more in cutscenes. And so I'm pretty happy with the options for character creation. It's pretty neat. I spent a decent amount of time just messing around with features, knowing what the character already looked like helped. But it's definitely well put together in that regard, and the other NPCs you encounter are pretty good looking as well as far as detail and the kind of unique features. And so I would say overall, aesthetically, Wild Hearts has really good presentation. The aesthetic of the environments is cool. The maps are very detailed and massive. We'll spend time running around maps, and you'll see that there's a lot more variation in terrain and complexity to the maps. Kind of more like Monster Hunter World versus Monster Hunter Rise, which simplified a lot of the environments to kind of help with your ability to zip around. In this game, you can still zip around, but it's all based around a lot of the building mechanics, which we'll get to in a little while. And so basic movement around and navigation, I won't spend too much time talking about this, but the controls are very similar to Monster Hunter. A couple key differences: you have a jump. I'm playing on PlayStation controller. You'll see prompts in Xbox for whatever reason, but you can jump. And evade is on circle. On Monster Hunter, evade's on X on PlayStation. So that's taking a little bit of getting used to. Running with R1, that's the same. And then your weapon buttons are square and triangle. And so I guess the easiest thing to do would be to do a really quick rundown of the weapons in the game, with the exception of one I haven't touched, the bow. I've not tried out bow yet. There are 8 weapons in total, so we'll talk about 7 of them, and we'll probably get back to bow in the future. And so the first one we'll look at is the Karakuri Katana. And this one is a quick-hitting melee weapon, similar to Longsword in Monster Hunter. It's a little bit smaller, but mechanic-wise, it doesn't really play the same. There's going to be a lot of comparison to Monster Hunter that I'm going to make because it's kind of unavoidable. But all of the weapons in Wild Hearts are very unique and very interesting in their mechanics. And so we'll kind of go through them real quick to show you just how the different weapons play. And then what I'll do is I'll run through the katana first and explain the building mechanic, the karakuri, because that is easily the biggest unique mechanic of the game, and it's pretty neat. And so this is our training dummy. It's a big bear. If you turn it on, it'll just sit in place. But it also will give us training prompts as well. And so with the katana, you have on square a couple rapid hitting attacks that chain to a bunch of slashes. On triangle, again, I'm keeping PS controls even though it's giving me Xbox ones. The EI/street. You have a bunch of kind of quick draw moves. And then you go into a sheath stance, and I think you can hold it. Again, I haven't played with this weapon a ton. Yeah, you can hold it. You can hold it and go into a really powerful draw slash, Kenshin style. And I believe you can just tack on a whole bunch of hits, like so. A lot of hits. The character's stamina bar, which is a little bit hard to see when I'm not actively doing something. Right above that number 14 in the bottom of the middle of the screen, you're going to see what looks like a little yellow bar. It'll pop up eventually when I start doing stuff. But it looks like a little yellow vertical bar. That's stamina. Lower left in the green is my life, and then the blue bar is my unique weapon bar on top. Iconic says the mech bear training dummy looks cool. Yeah, I like the training dummy. I wish it was bigger though. We'll see with some of the other weapons. If it was a bigger target, it'd be easier to demonstrate what the different weapons can do. But it's fine for this. It'll work just fine. So as you hit the enemy with your square and triangle slashes, it builds the blue bar. And then when it tops out, it's completely full. You hit R2 on the trigger to go into what they call it, unbound mode. And you have to do it with an attack. Yep. And once you do that, you go into the unbound katana mode, and your sword becomes a whip sword, just like Ivy in Soul Calibur. Range and overall amount of hits goes up. You can still do the same chains, and it functions a little bit different. But now you're whipping the monster with a lot more hits, and it adds some strokes like that. And can I turn it? Can I turn it off? Again, I've started with this weapon because this is one I know the least. Once the bar depletes, it reverts back to regular mode. And you have to build it up again. What I'll do is I'll try and build that up as fast as possible. Because there's one move you can do with the whip sword that's incredibly powerful, but I think it depletes your bar really fast. And you also have jump attacks that pair with the different weapons. Some of them are pretty simple, and some change when you enter the whip sword state. So what you're going to find, as I try and explain these to the best of my ability, if you've ever played Bloodborne, where you have weapons that change forms or have like an alternate mode, you get a lot of that in Wild Hearts. And it makes for some really fun gameplay. And very, very fresh and different from Monster Hunter, which I appreciate. Alright, so unleash the weapon, and if we hit trigger, there's a big sort of double slash. You use the sheath, and you go into a massive series of blows. High animation commitment, but does a lot of damage. You can see my stamina bar right to the right of my character going up in yellow. Certain moves will deplete that, so it's not completely free. Hopefully it's not too loud. I can always drop the sound effects down if it's too loud. So in a nutshell, the katana involves managing meter and going between the different modes in order to maximize damage. This thing does pretty good damage if you know how to use it. I don't, so I kind of suck at the weapon. But before we move on, the building feature, the karakuri. This is, again, the unique gimmick of Wild Hearts. If I hit L1, I go into this sort of free mode where my character is pointing her arm. And you can see the menu shows 4 different things on a menu mapped to the face buttons. And then you see the 14 underneath. The 14 is my resource of karakuri thread, which is what you use to build the different constructs that you use to navigate and in combat. So if I hit square, it constructs a crate. And now this crate is part of the environment, and I can use it to jump off. And unlike my regular jumping attack, with the triangle, jumping off a crate gives me a plunge. And allows me to do more damage, a harder hit on the way down. If we max meter, I'm going to try and do this real quick. Okay, we can do the big double sheath strike without whip mode activated. It just doesn't do as much damage. Alright, there we go. We got whip mode. When we do the jumping attacks or the plunge with whip mode, we get a much bigger sort of ground shatter burst. It does more damage. And let's see if I can do this fast enough. If we build it even higher, even stronger attack. We can stack our constructs 3 high in most cases. We won't get the whip because we ran out of meter, but you can use crates as things that allow you to jump off of and use different moves for different weapons. Alright? You can use them to navigate the terrain. So if you need to get somewhere high, you can build these, and then you can scale, because you can't really climb, like free climb like you can in Monster Hunter. Instead, you have to rely on your tech in order to get to high spots and traverse. Again, this is the main unique gimmick. So if we go right stick, deconstruct everything, it'll break our constructs and get them out of the way. One thing that's neat about the maps in Wild Hearts, when you create stuff, either in battle or as you're navigating around, those things stay. They're persistent, as long as they're not something that breaks after use. So if I create a crate here near my camp, and nothing wildlife-wise or animal or enemy-wise breaks it, that crate will just be there forever. And you kind of use that to your advantage to create some traversal stuff, which we'll look at a little bit later. But I think the idea that as you're hunting on the different maps, if you created stuff, it'll be there when you come back, which is kind of cool. In addition to the crate, we have on circle, for me, B on Xbox, spring. This creates a little kind of trampoline looking spring that when we run across it, shoots us forward. It's like a launcher. Every weapon in the game that I've seen, when interacting with spring, if you jump off it and attack, have moves that specifically come out when you're launching yourself. Be that on square, triangle, or trigger. I made it too close to the target, so I'm not landing any hits, but not only does this allow you to close distances or get away, but you get iframes on that launch too. It's not the entire thing, but I believe on startup, as things move, you're invincible, so you can evade using springs as well, which is pretty handy. I'm going to run out of thread eventually. If we hit L2, we go into what's called Hunter Vision, which shows us points of interest in the map. It would show us our target if we were actively hunting something. And basically it's kind of like a radar for certain points of interest. The reason why I'm doing this is because it'll also show you where you can find some of the thread in the environment to replenish your construction ability. And it happens that there are none immediately nearby. It's convenient. That tree should work, though. So I remember when the initial footage for this game came out and they announced it, a lot of people were saying this just looks like Fortnite Monster Hunter. That is definitely not the case after playing the game. The building components kind of function like a weapon or a tool, and you use that to kind of augment your abilities. It's a little bit different than something like Fortnite, but it makes the gameplay very, very unique and interesting. We can demonstrate this here. All right. So on our build menu, again, I know it's a lot of discussion, but I'm going to be using all this stuff in combat. So I wanted to explain at least how this building stuff works. On triangle, we have a torch. Torch allows us to put fire on our weapon. A lot of the beasts you fight, the Kemono, are kind of a mixture of nature and like nature attributes and animals, and boy, they do not like getting set on fire, except for the fire-based ones. Torch basically puts a buff state on your weapon. Pretty cool. Don't use this one a ton. The torch has some other features that I'll show off in a sec. The last one of the basic 4 I've got unlocked, and there's a to unlock in this game, is on X. Looks like a lantern. Looks like that. And it just sits there till you run up to it. You grab it, and it is a copter. This thing will allow you to get through the air and ascend, and then slowly descend back to the ground. And then it'll fold up, and I think it just goes away after a while. You can use this to navigate the map, kind of Breath of the Wild style, and get air. Or you can use it to get above a target for aerial attacks. Really neat. I like the copter. It's fun. Especially with the gun, which we'll see later. Useful for traversal and also interesting in combat for the air mobility. Now let's see if I got enough. I'll try and stock up. The last thing I want to show off is probably the most interesting feature of the Karakuri in the building, and that's the fusion function here. And as we've been hanging out on the map, just kind of tinkering around, time's passing. It is now nighttime. It just constantly shifts from day to night. So it might be a little bit harder to see. That's okay. In fact, we'll just go back to the camp. As you proceed through the game and hunt different Kemono, the monsters that you're out hunting, you will get these inspirations of ideas fighting them. And that inspiration gives you new sort of recipes or blueprints for your Karakuri, the building constructs. And some of those are new and standalone ones like the 4 I showed off. Some of them are what they call fusion Karakuri, which combines a certain amount of the created constructs. So to show you what that looks like, if we take the crate and we build 6 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It creates a bulwark. It's a giant wall. If a charging Kemono runs into this thing, it'll get knocked the F out because it'll basically hit a barrier and this thing will launch it backwards, kind of like a counter. So this is a shield. And I've never had one last long enough to just fall apart on its own, so I don't know if it does. But there's some big enemies that will try and run you over. And as long as you have enough of the thread to construct one of these with 6 crates, like mid-charge, you can watch the tells for the monsters and get this in place before. Once they hit it, they'll go flying. It's really funny and pretty useful for just creating a shield. You can also use it as a massive platform. You can jump off of it too. So that's the bulwark. I might not have enough to do another one, but we'll get rid of this one. I might be able to go to the town. I'm not going to bother going back to town. I think you have infinite thread there. It'd save me the trouble of running around trying to find more, but that's okay. Oh, these trees were good. I should have used that in the beginning. All right. Trees and rocks give you more thread. And when you use that hunter vision, it lights them up so you can see which ones are harvestable. All right, here's another one. This one requires 6 of the springs. If we go 1, 2, 3... Oh, 3 of them, rather. It creates a giant hammer. And that might have been a little difficult to see. Let me try it again. I'll try and tilt my camera up a little bit. Creates a giant mallet. If you can get that in place when a monster is standing still or in some sort of state where it's doing an attack, and you hit him with the big hammer, it'll usually knock him over. You can use it to destroy certain things the monsters create in the environment, and it's a pretty good offensive tool. And it's pretty satisfying to see that massive mallet just swing out and then bop him on the head. Alright, we'll do one more. Then we'll go back to the weapons. If we use 6 of the torches, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This creates a firework launcher that shoots a big explosive firework into the air. And while it does look pretty, it functions like a flashbang. Use that on a monster that's flying around, and it'll just drop them straight to the ground in a staggered state. And there are a couple kind of bird-like Kemono that I've fought. Or at least one. I've seen another one that I haven't fought yet. But one of them does get airborne, and it's pretty dangerous in the air. You get enough thread to throw the fireworks, and it is no longer in the air. Pretty handy. And so at a real surface level, the Karakuri system is all about using these constructs to support your abilities, to get around, to be mobile. It's very, very interesting, but it's kind of tricky to master. I'm not good at it. Iconic says horny bonks. That's right. The mallet of justice. And in addition, real quick, to the combat ones, and maybe I can demonstrate this here if I got enough string. There's environmental karakuri called Dragon Karakuri you can use to create in the environment things like campsites, which allow you to fast travel. You can just create fast travel points all over the map, which is fantastic. There's campfires, which are used to access certain features in multiplayer, I believe. There is a forge. Rather than having to go to town, you can just create a forge in a campsite and do your weapons and armor right there. There's drying racks for food. And then there's these things. Flying Vine. One of the neatest features in the game, I think. Let's see. Let's see if we can put it somewhere where I can actually make some use of it. The sun's coming up. Alright, this will be a good spot to demonstrate this. So there is a limit to what you can construct in the environment as far as these interactables. This big menu on the right, the Dragon Pit capacity, they give it like energy reserves, resources, you unlock these glowing portals called Dragon Pits, which boost those elemental bars. And each Karakura you put down takes up a little bit of those resources, and as long as it's sitting on the map. And so you're limited by whatever those resources are currently at. You can't build more than each respective bar or elemental type currently has at capacity. So Flying Vine. This thing is kind of like Ballista. You can use them offensively. I haven't tried that yet. But if we activate them, we get an aiming reticule, and I'm going to aim for that tree. It should anchor. And now that it's anchored, we now have a zip line. You can use this to traverse through point A, point B, and get around the map very, very quickly. Now, I put it so high up, it's kind of difficult to get back up there, I think. But you get the idea. So let's say, and these maps, again, these maps are friggin' huge. If I just kind of look out over here, with the exception of water, because my hunter apparently can't swim, anything you can see readily is pretty much accessible. That's the town in the distance. But you want to create a series of zip lines all the way across the map to get from point A to point B, you can totally do that. You want to go up to the top of the mountain as high as you can go and shoot a zip line all the way across to a point of interest, you can do that. And it just lets you get around. Very unique feature. Something I really hope to see a similar type of mechanic in Monster Hunter, because it means your traversal options are incredibly varied. And even if we weren't, because I can't reach a zip line now, it's too high. But even if we go and jump, throw the copter on. Yeah, I'm just going to dip in the canyon here. But all the stuff that you can see here, traversable, explorable areas and stuff to go look around and find stuff at. And so the map exploration stuff, which I haven't done a ton of, to be honest, is pretty detailed. There's a lot to see and do, which is pretty cool. Alright. Let's go back to town, do a quick run through of the other weapons, and then we'll actually do something. I'm going to try and keep it under an hour with the technical talk, and then we'll actually do some hunts. So this is the main camp. This is kind of a story-based point. We start the game. I've already got things set up here like the forge, tent. This thing is a fountain. Our healing, quote-unquote, potions are this healing water, which I can't use because I'm not injured. But you can replenish it at these fountains. I think it just refills over time. Or you can pick up those little glowing ball plants you see around in the environment. Like that one over there in the blue. And I can hold... How many can I hold? 12. A little droplet below my life is my healing. Alright. So I'm going to start with the weapons I don't know as well, and I won't spend a ton of time. I'll just explain sort of their main focus. And then I'll go into the ones that I've actively put hands on so I can speak to them a little bit better. So we'll switch to the Nodachi. The Nodachi is a very large sword, akin to the Great Sword in Monster Hunter, but kind of unique from the Great Sword, just watching people play with it. I've only messed around with this weapon for maybe like 15 minutes. It's cool, I just didn't focus on this one when I started. But the Nodachi focuses on big hits. Think of Guts from Berserk. Oh, gotta turn the dummy on. I would say compared to Great Sword in Monster Hunter, this thing's definitely more mobile. You have kind of a slow jogging pace versus in Monster Hunter, you are inching along when you have your weapon drawn. But the hits for the Nodachi are very heavy. Iconic says Ichigo looking sword. That's right. It's definitely thicker than the main sword that Ichigo uses in Bleach. It basically looks like a big knife. So on square, We've got downward slashes. A series of heavy hits, sort of launch forward. You can use triangle for moving slashes, which is really handy because you can position yourself around targets while landing these heavy hits. That's also pretty different from Monster Hunter. Being able to sort of cut and move and change your direction means you're not anchored. You're not kind of stuck in one spot. So I do appreciate that too. EI slash. Kind of the main mechanic that I've seen for the Nodachi. Holding R2 puts you into a draw state. And it slowly builds up a charge over time. You can see the blue bar above my health. Now it's filling. If it overfills, you just lose it. Okay, that's good to know. So I believe we want to build charge and then unleash with releasing the trigger before it completely overfills. Otherwise, yeah, it just knocks us over. Okay. Oh, and it does deplete stamina. Valor gauge, that's the blue bar. So let me see if I can get the finisher off, and then I'll show off something else that's kind of neat that I learned just today watching some other YouTubers. So I believe the sword hits are what are powered up by the charge. It doesn't... I don't think there's a finisher. I honestly don't know for that. But one thing I did learn is if you hold the trigger down and move around, you can attack while you're in charging state just by keeping the trigger held down. Ah, bisection. I think that's the finisher. But it seems like the timing is a little bit specific. Oh, there it is. Okay. So it's like a big finishing hit once the bar is full, but you can sort of move around and maintain the charge while attacking. Let's whirling slash. Oh, I see. It's my stamina that's causing me to break stance, I think. It's not an overfill. It's just my stamina's depleting. There it is. Okay, that's the finisher. So if I lose my stamina before I can let off my attack, it just knocks me over. I lose the meter. But if I completely charge up everything and get to that completely powered up state, that's the bisect. And you get a massive cratering finisher. Pretty cool. This weapon's neat. I'll have to learn it eventually. If we jump off crates, we have kind of a plunging impale attack with the sword. Let's see, can we use this in charge? Oh, maybe not. Oh yeah, we can. Okay, so that works too. With springs, I think all of the attacks. Yep. There's kind of these whirling lunges with the spring, like the EI. Was that soaring streak? Is that what that said? I'll just leave those there. Use them to demo the other weapons. And so that's a real basic and not terribly detailed look at Nodachi. This is not a weapon I've played a ton of. But it's pretty cool. If you want to smack things with a giant friggin' sword, with the exception of the other giant freaking sword in the game, and that might be the weapon for you. Alright. Now we're going to get into the ones I've actually played with a little bit. Let's start with the Claw Blade. This is very similar to Dual Blades in Monster Hunter. This weapon is dope. I need to build some actual upgraded versions of these and take them out. But took a little bit to get through the early story stuff and actually unlock them. If I were to offer a criticism of Wild Hearts, one thing that I don't like is that not all of the 8 weapons are unlocked from the start. 5 of them are, and then 3 you have to unlock after beating one of the major bosses. And I think that's kind of lame, because each of those 3 are pretty cool. Alright. So Claw Blade. This is a very fast, quick hitting weapon. You have a claw and blade, hence the name. And then the other one is sort of like a short blade, like a knife. Hence the comparison to dual swords plus the kind of Naruto run when you're zipping around. On attack, weapon hits very fast. These are the square hits. On triangle, jump slash, with forward lunging, slower but higher damage overhead. Each hit with the Claw Blade builds up the gauge in the lower left, the blue bar above my health. And I believe it depletes if you don't hit anything for a while. And so once you hit max charge, you get kind of a yellow glow around your hunter. And if you hit right trigger, you will anchor one blade in the enemy with a chain tether like this. And this changes your moveset kind of a lot. There's a bar or a meter around the anchor point in the yellow that slowly depletes over time. But one thing that is incredibly dope that hopefully will be easy to see with a small target. If I hit circle, you go into Attack on Titan mode. You can whip yourself around the monster as long as that point is anchored. And then as soon as the meter is depleted, it'll detach and you've got to build up the meter again. But you have a whole bunch of techniques and arsenal of attacks in anchored mode that all involve zipping around at high speed around the target, and it's insanely cool. So I can reel myself in with L2 or R2. If I need to change directions, that's what the circle sort of vault move looks like. Let's see. I'm gonna run out of time. There is a finisher, but I need to land enough attacks while I'm in anchored or tethered mode. Let me see if I can do that real quick. Like the other weapons, Claw Blade benefits greatly from using the Karakuri to change its attack patterns. All of them are pretty mobile, involve zipping around the target. Alright, I think the red glow, if I hit... Where is it? Oh no, the kind of dark red glow. Do enough hits to get that dark red glow, and you get kind of a chime to let you know you actually hit charge state, and then hit R2 plus triangle. The hunter does this kind of spinning top move, sort of Levi style, right into the monster, and then zips back and does a big sort of cross slash finisher, which does a ton of damage. But you have to build up enough meter and not get knocked off by the monster in order for that to work. This isn't the best place to demo this because it's not wide open, so I'm kind of colliding with the environment. Let me see if I can do that better. I think that's it. There, that's finisher. Super stylish. Very sort of agile and neat. I think the claw blades are pretty cool. If you use the crates as a jump off, you can get kind of a plunge. And I think using triangle just anchors your blades automatically. Yep. But if you don't have a lot of meter, you're just going to get launched off. Oh, you can do that from different directions too. Alright. So that is a really basic overview of Clawblade. If you like fast and you like being in the air and being part of the, was it Survey Corps in Attack on Titan, then this is the weapon for you. I definitely want to play around with this one some more. It's a lot of fun. Iconic says Beyblade attack. Yeah, pretty much. You let her rip. Alright. Let's look at the cannon. This weapon class is called the hand cannon. Appropriate enough. This one is essentially a giant boar tusk from one of the enemies we fought. And there's two range classes. Again, the one I don't know is bow. At some point once I learn that weapon, I'll talk about it here. But your movement speed with the hand cannon is a little bit slower. You can still dodge. And you can use things like the springboards and the katakuri to get you in and out if you need to. But if we go on right trigger, this thing uses kind of like a key energy to shoot things. We have an ammo bar, which is right above my life, the blue. And you see it depleting slowly while this other bar right above it is going up. That's our heat gauge. If we run out of the blue, then I think you can shoot like a weak shot, won't do any damage. So what you want to do is hit square and put what they call a key base down. These little green tiles on the ground. That refills your ammo. As long as you're standing on these, it'll continue to recharge. Now, if you completely overfill the heat gauge, then I believe your weapon goes into overheat state and does less damage till it cools off. But if you wait till it's got that sort of fire animation on it, and then hit triangle, you go into a mortar shot. And if you land that mortar shot on the enemy, it'll put down a special type of key base glowing red here, which is a unique one. It'll only do that if you land the mortar shot when you're in overheat status. If I hit R2 plus triangle, then we're going to take that red key base and we load it into our gun. And now our gun's glowing green. When you're in this state, and I think it's more effective if you're on a key base when you do it. I haven't tested that yet. But if we hit R2 and triangle again, we go into fire stance. And you get a giant Kamehameha, I'm firing my laser style, massive orbital blast that just does a butt ton of damage. I think it's the strongest attack in the entire game, except for one. Hey, Red Dragon's here. What's up, Red Dragon? We're talking about Wild Hearts. And we've done nothing but talk about Wild Hearts for almost an hour. And so, with the hand cannon, Your main strategy is building up the heat gauge, getting the mortar shot to land, and then lining yourself up to do the big cannon that does such a ridiculous amount of damage. You guys don't even know. I've cut my hunt times in half just playing around with the weapon. I don't even know how to use it that well. If we do something kind of unique compared to some of the other ones with the copter, we can go airborne. We become an attack helicopter. You get really fast rate of fire when in the air like that, which is pretty handy. So it's doing like 107 a pop, and the big burst finisher was over 1,000 damage. Nothing I've shown off so far does even close to that in one concentrated burst. The problem is, if you go into that firing state and you're about to shoot off the cannon and the enemy moves or hits you, I think it just knocks you completely out of it. So you do have to be careful. You can't just sit there in one spot since the enemies are pretty quick in this game. You gotta move around and kind of plan your shots. But the basic loop is mortar shot, which I missed because I went right over the top. Heat gauge to mortar shot to massive nuke. And then if we hit R2 plus square X on the Xbox, it picks all those key bases up. Just vacuums them up back into the gun, and we can redeploy them. Those little blue tiles right to the right of the blue bar above my health, those are the key bases. We got 5 total. So there are 5 spots we can put down that'll replenish our ammo. What was that? And a couple of the moves that the hand cannon uses in conjunction with the different karakuri are basically different types of volley shots that it does, which is kind of neat. It's kind of like a spread burst there. This big aerial sort of shoot from above, and all that builds up your heat gauge. The prompts are basically walking me through what I just explained with getting all the stuff powered up in order to get their fortified key base. Firing stance. Right in the butt. No, someone's nearby. So that's a real quick overview of the hand cannon. On the one hand, there's not a ton of moves that it's got. But on the other hand, what it does is incredibly strong when it comes to DPS. Some of the best hunt times I've seen from other people have come from using this weapon, which is kind of crazy. I hope the other weapons get buffed a little bit to kind of balance out the damage. There is one that we'll see that is... Actually, we'll do that one next. That I think might do more damage in one shot, but is way harder to use. And so there are 3 weapons left. There is the staff, the Karakuri staff, the maul, and the bladed Wagasa. I will real quickly go through these, and again, it's not going to be less than an hour, but once I explain these, then we'll go out on hunts and proceed with actually playing the game. So admittedly, the Karakuri staff I haven't spent a ton of time with. I did try it out because I unlocked it last night. And I think I understand how it works enough to explain it. This weapon is cool. This is basically the charge blade and complexity level of Wild Hearts. Not because it plays like a charge blade in Monster Hunter, but because it's probably the most complicated weapon. And so on draw, we have a real simple sort of metal staff. And we've got some pretty heavy hits on square. And then we got some jumping, heavier hits on triangle. Pretty simple. And a decent amount of mobility. We can kind of book it with this weapon. Move pretty quick. If I hit R2, it mutates the weapon. And now it is a couple of bladed tonfas. So now the weapon has changed forms. And now we have a bunch of rapid hitting, slashing attacks with the bladed tonfas. Similar to dual blades. Feels pretty similar as far as the speed. If you ever played Talon in Soul Calibur, just put some blades on her tonfas. The moveset's pretty similar. Light's a bunch of fast hitting and triangles, kind of a bit more heavy, lunging. But overall, pretty quick. You can stack a lot of damage up quickly with the dual bladed part. If I hit R2 again, now we've got the shuriken form. A little bit slower, but you can toss the weapon out like a boomerang. Pretty neat. Use it in melee. You can use it a little bit further away. Chuck the blade out, and it'll come back to you. Iconic says, "Oh, that's tight." Yeah, I like the throwing star. It's neat, and it goes out a ways. Red Dragon says, "The game does look nice." Yeah, I'm playing it on 1080 and 60, and it could look nicer. Problem is, the optimization isn't great right now. It's what I was telling people at the beginning, Red Dragon. People on PC specifically have been noting performance dips all across the board with different hardware. And so the devs are still ironing it out, but they are actively working on it. I was playing this on the road on my laptop, which is a pretty decently powerful gaming laptop. And it was struggling, man. It was struggling to keep like 30 consistently. And I was still playing through it and had a lot of fun. But yeah, keep an eye on the development, because eventually they'll even it out. But yeah, gameplay wise, the game was a lot of fun. Like I said, strongest competitor Monster Hunter I've seen in a long time, which is good. Competition is good. All right, so we have the shuriken. If we hit R2 again, we got the dual bladed pole arm like a partisan. Or single-bladed partisan, rather. Slower than the regular staff, but does some really strong piercing moves that kind of hit multiple times as they kind of stick into the target. A little bit more deliberate, but still pretty strong. Now, if we hit R2 one more time, we should get the final form. Oh no, it cycles back to the beginning. So the way the mutations, they call them, work is it always cycles in order. So it goes from staff to dual blades to throwing star to polearm, and then back to staff. And so the bulk of the gameplay focus with the Karakuri staff is switching between the forms to maximize effectiveness and get hits. But that's only half the mechanic. So you can see when I'm landing hits, at the end of a string, my hunter glows orange. If I hit R2, the mutation button, right when that burst goes off, then it'll switch forms and put a pip on the bar, the blue bar above my health. And if we keep building it up, each successful timing of the hits on that flash is building the bar up further. Like that. So once the bar is maxed out or over, I think, level 4, if I hit R2 and triangle, we get the big hit. So that was like 4 something, 7 something, and 19 something. Massive, massive hit. I think that does more damage than the nuke on the gun. But you got to build the gauge up to get to that finisher, and then get an opening to get the massive, I think they call it like the Great Blade or something like that, and then it just flattens whatever you're hitting with a ton of damage. So let me try and do it in order here. All right. Let's try it again. 392. 703. 1977. Hey, Prince is here. Princess, that's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. All right. So, I think the Karakuri staff is cool. I'm going to be playing this weapon a lot later, but it's going to take some practice. Just because the monsters do not stand still. They're very fast and very aggressive in this game. So trying to time your hits while getting the flash to get the bar, and then using your resources to land the massive hit is tough. I can imagine that being difficult. But you do that, it's going to flatten a lot of the things you fight in this game. But super unique. I really like the idea. It's basically like if you strung a bunch of Bloodborne weapons together and gave them an ability that capitalizes off of switching at the right time. Oh, man. That's great. Alright, 2 weapons to go. The 2 I've played with the most. And I'll try not to talk too much. Let's do the Maul next. So some folks here who've played Monster Hunter, or at least watched me play and talk about it endlessly, probably remember that I spent a lot of time playing Hammer in that game. Hammer was my first main way back in the PSP days of Monster Hunter. And so when I saw the Maul, I thought, that's probably going to seem really familiar as far as being like a hammer. You know, big, heavy, bonking weapon. Turns out that's half right in this game. This weapon is probably the slowest. Slower than the Nodachi, your great sword, in quotes. It is a massive weapon. Does make sense. You can see the heft. And my character sort of slings it over her shoulder. On square, we've got pound combos. There's like a... Oh, I gotta turn the thing on again. One, two. 1, 2, 3. Decently fast, but still pretty heavy hits. And then you can evade out to cancel animations and keep from being stuck in these big wind-up animations. On triangle, we have the jumping smash. Doesn't really chain into a series of combos, you just keep jumping. Covers a bit of distance, hits overhead, more damage than the square combos. Pretty decent. On right trigger, power smash. And I didn't realize you can yeet your Karakuri with that. I've never done that before, but it's kind of neat they tell you that. So if I hold R2, you get these big, wild swings with the weapon until my stamina runs out. And then there's a massive finisher at the end after it swings around. Now let me do that one more time. So as the weapon starts swinging around, you can see the hammer handle. It starts extending out. And gets longer. The maul, rather. The maul's helve. I guess that what that's called. Anyway, you can see it sort of extending out, which is pretty interesting. That I did not expect a mechanic like that from this weapon. But yes, longer mallet. So here's how that works. The extended maul helve that they talk about here. For the square and triangle attacks, you can see that same orange flash like with the staff. If I hit R2 when that flash goes off, then my character extends the maul. So let me see if I can demonstrate that here. She demonstrates, she extends the hilt out, and then nothing happens unless you follow it up with an attack. So you can do that 3 times on square for a massive finisher. Basically, you go hit, extend, and then chain into another input, either square or triangle, and it changes the moves each time. And so to demonstrate again. Boom! 1025. It's a pretty heavy hit. And the extensions take stamina, I believe. On triangle, and this is what I was doing for a lot of the game, I thought it was pretty fun. You do the same thing because on the jump attack, there's still that burst. Same thing, slightly different timing. So a little bit difficult to show on a small target, but when you use the extend on the aerial, you basically flip, hit the monster overhead, and as long as you time it, you'll keep flipping overhead and doing it over and over again. But I think you have to hit in order for it to chain. And because the target's so small, it's kind of hard to demonstrate that. There we go. Okay, if I do it from head on, it'll keep me in line. On the bigger targets, it's not really an issue. What you have to worry about is running out of stamina or getting clocked while you're midair. Alright, so stamina. And then you can keep doing that spinning leap until you run out of stamina, and then it just drops you to the ground. But that does also a lot of damage. Prince says that's like some Paper Mario RPG mechanics. Yeah, kind of. You basically have to do like a rhythm timing because there's a window whenever you get the glow in order to get the extend. But you can also chain the different attack inputs. So I did square, extend, jump, extend, back to square for the somersaulting spin. Glider-based attack. If we pop out glider, get above the target, hold R2, we get a big spin, sort of like in a windmill, which is also pretty fun. And so the maul, while not necessarily as complex as something like the staff, and maybe not quite as burst focused as the hand cannon, the ability to change your combos using that extend feature is really fun. I think it's either this one or the umbrella I've done the most hunts with in the game. And if you can line up shots and wait for an opening, you can bonk monsters in oblivion. It's pretty fun. And it feels pretty fluid. It doesn't have any sort of parry or base evade mechanics to it, so you really need to be careful with your positioning or use things like the springboards to get out of the way. But maul is fun. It's similar to a hammer in Monster Hunter, but also very kind of unique and different. I dig it. Alright. Now the last weapon. competing with them all for my favorite, the Bladed Wagasa. The Bladed Wagasa is honestly one of the most unique ideas for a Monster Hunter type weapon. And everyone was kind of clowning on this weapon when they was showing off in the footage because it looks almost, unassuming. Like, oh, you're going to hit someone with an umbrella? That seems kind of lame. And moveset wise, the Bladed Wagasa is not really that complicated compared to everything else I've shown off. It doesn't have a ton of moves. You've got Spin Dance on square. Series of quick hits that can be evade canceled into this sort of twirl instead of the roll, which is kind of neat. Very fluid, very fast hitting. On triangle, your heavy attacks. You've got a forward lunge that pops you into the air and allows you to go into aerial combos. Allows you to continue your attack chains in the air, or if you hit triangle again, you'll do the Comet, which is a diving move. And kind of like a dive kick, gets you back to the ground relatively quickly. Iconic says, umbrellas are cool weapons. Do peeps even Kirby? Yeah, that's right. Let's see. Do I have training options? Where are the training settings? Alright, this one... Okay, I gotta switch sites. This is the kind of tutorial one at the beginning of the game. But, let me see if I can just build another one right here. Oh, no, I don't have it unlocked. Okay. Let me go to town, because the one there is customizable. Iconic says I can make Setsuka from Soul Calibur. Absolutely. You could definitely do that. Alright, I'm going to go back to the town hub because there's a training center here that lets me customize what the bear does, because I need it to attack me. So we'll take a look at Minato real quick. You actually don't spend a lot of time in the town hub in this game. For story stuff and interacting with NPCs, you do go back to town for that. But because you can build all your stuff in the field, you could spend like an entire session on the maps and never go back to town, which is kind of cool. I think that's a neat twist on the formula. All right. Shore training area. You can see I was messing around in training mode here before. The stuff I built is still here. Normally, we can customize what the bear does. Alright, so it'll always face me, and it's going to shoot a projectile at me. So... on right trigger, try not to get clocked by this thing. On right trigger with the Bladed Wagasa is parry. Okay? If you parry, you'll get knocked back a ways, but you won't take any damage. And the meter above my life will refill by a set amount. And if you mistime it, you take the hit. Each successful parry will boost that meter more, or if you can just hit with the parasol. And so once the meter is built up, it changes your combos a little bit. And now I need you to stop attacking me. In fact, I can turn it off. But just to demonstrate the parrying, and the parry window is a little bit specific. I'm not super great at it, despite maining this weapon for majority of the game. Easily, the biggest challenge is learning the monster timing to successfully parry. But once you do, this is an insane weapon. Alright, let me turn that off. Okay. We just need you to stay put. So one thing that's challenging about the Bladed Wagasa is that if you don't attack for just a little while, your meter will start to deplete. You can land the square or triangle attacks to refill the meter, or go for parries, which refills it much faster. One thing that well-known Monster Hunter community and content creator Rurikon from Portugal mentioned in a recent podcast I was watching was the fact that the parry can be used as a combo extender in addition to just a parry. So if you do the parry and then follow up with attacks after, once your bar has hit yellow or higher, I think, if you go parry without actually hitting anything and then go into your square combos, the things that your hunter does change, including this move where you toss the parasol into the enemy and it does a butt ton of damage and a ton of hits. And so, in addition to that, doing combos after just the parry input builds your meter faster in general. So you don't have to parry just to fill the bar. But once it's full, you want to use those advanced combos to do things like that. It's crazy how much damage stacks up. Once you have that bar maxed out. And if you do parry triangle, get a big lunge that'll get you right in someone's face and carry a decent distance, so you gotta be careful not to overshoot. And so on the one hand, the Bladed Wagasa is simple. The moveset's not extensive. And you can do something like that big dive off of crates. But the real challenge comes from the meter management and learning how to parry everything. And so I've spent so much time practicing with the weapon, and I still suck every time I fight something new. I get my rear absolutely demolished while I try and figure out the parry timings for everything. But I like the idea that you don't have to keep track of a ton of moves. You just have to get your meter maxed, get into an opening, and then go to town on the monster. And that tossing move, the yeet with the umbrella. Tons of damage. And it looks cool. The springboards also work pretty well with the Bladed Wagasa because they'll move you in a direction and close distance really, really fast. Red Dragon says, I do want to get this game, but poor. I'd say also because they're still trying to figure out the optimization stuff, you're probably okay waiting for a sale. It'll go on sale soon enough. And hopefully by then, it'll be a lot easier for everyone to play it. I wasn't going to wait because I have to play Monster Hunter games. And I also thought it'd be fun to show you folks on stream, since I've been talking about it for a bit. But enough of the tutorial. It's been almost an hour and a half. Let's go fight something. And I won't have to do this again, so thanks for bearing with me here. Okay, so we're in chapter 2 now. Let me kind of go into a fight and demonstrate kind of the mechanics. I'm trying to get completely murdered here. Let's go fight a giant angry chicken, Dreadclaw. And I guess we'll use a water weapon. Yeah, as far as competing properties go, I'm really hopeful for Wild Hearts. If the devs just keep refining the product and make it a good experience for everyone, this would ultimately, if they continue to develop the property, will be able to compete with Monster Hunter. Maybe not one for one now, because again, Monster Hunter's been around for like 20-something years. But it's a strong contender, is what I'll say there. All right. So now we're actually on a hunt. If I hit left on the D-pad, I can eat things to boost my health, just like you can in Monster Hunter. I haven't really gotten into the preparation cooking yet, but you can construct karakuri that'll allow you to prepare things. I've got a drying rack over there on the side. You can dry vegetables and meats, which I don't actively have. Oh, let's figure out where our target's at. These towers are radar towers. You build them in an area, and they will send out signals to scout out things in the area and tell you where different kemono are just hanging out. Fortunately, our target's right there. So we can just go over to the beach where I've left one of the zip lines. And then we get up here. Alright. I have not done this fight a ton with this weapon. So prepare to watch me get owned as I try and remember all the parry windows for this particular fight. But this is Dreadclaw. It's basically a giant chicken plant monster. There we go, finally. Every time you hear that sort of metallic chime noise, it means I've parried something correctly. If my character screams like that, it means I missed. Oh, really? There we go. Leaving? Oh, leaving. That's a shame. I just got my bar maxed out and then. So I'm noticing the frame rate suffering a bit. It's probably because I'm streaming this. Normally, at least up through yesterday, I didn't have any issues like that just playing through different areas. So that is a little annoying, but hopefully it doesn't look too bad on the broadcast for you folks. Another thing to mention, since it wasn't really apparent in the camp, this little round droid-looking thing is my travel companion, Tsukumo. They're like a Palico in Monster Hunter. You can customize them and upgrade them throughout the game. They do different things that support you in battle. This one heals me a lot because I get hit a lot, which is pretty handy. Alright, I gotta refill on my meter again. Oof! Alright. Get a break. Rude. It's weird. It's like I'm kind of playing in slow motion, which I have seen some people report as far as some of the performance issues, but I haven't seen that because the game hasn't done that up until now. But we'll make do. Ow, wow. It is kind of screwing with my timing, though. We knocked its hat off. as I do damage to the different Kemono, different glowing bits and be sort of broken. And I don't even know if I'll be able to do this when the frame rate's bugging out like that, but basically when those glowy bits are active, you can grab onto them and break them to get more Katakuri string. And it boosts your overall max temporarily too, which is kind of nice. But you have to basically wait for a moment to grapple on Shadow of the Colossus style, and that's not easy to do. These monsters don't stand still. Stand still. Nope. There we go. You got to kind of position yourself over the bit, and then you'll basically tear it off and enter that temporary state, which is kind of nice. Likes to do those kicks. And parry window's a little bit tight there. Oh, you don't? Alright. After you do enough damage to the Kemono, they'll go into rage state, which usually involves them changing forms. And now Angry Chicken is Airborne Angry Chicken. So it's time to bust out fireworks. But it landed first. So there's a couple moves it does while it's in the air that are pretty dangerous. So you'll want to drop it back down on the ground quickly. But the flashbang won't really work unless the monster's actively flying. We'll try that again once it takes off. Sit down. Alright, go for some openings, trying to break off some bits and boost meter. Want some more? Yeah, have some more. Alright, it's leaving. Just like Monster Hunter, as you fight the Kemono and break bits, things will fall off and be carvable. I knocked its hat off, but I don't remember where it was. One thing I hope they add in the future is a marker on the map that shows you things that you've busted off that you can gather or carve. Oh, I think that's it over there. Yeah. And so you could break off bits. For this one, you can break off its crown, which is what I knocked off over there. You can break its tail. You can break its actual headpiece. And I don't know if you can break other parts of its body. I don't remember. Alright, back in rage mode. Sit down. Ow. Another one. Oh, I didn't like that. Okay. Knocked its head thing off. Oh, come on, really? Did you kick me? Oh, I should have tried to jump on and rip off parts of its glowy bits. That would boost my string max. Oh well. It is almost dead. I'm trying to tell from the OBS readout here. Are you folks seeing the frame rate dive when I'm fighting things? Or even when I'm walking around? It definitely seems like it's dropped below 60. Yeah, I could see it chopping. That is a little bit annoying because I want to keep streaming this game, but I don't want to stream it if it looks like garbage. It's not really going to do the product much justice if everything looks terrible. Uh-oh. And that's what happens if you miss when you're creating your fusion katakuri. Ooh, that was lucky. Ah, it landed. Oh, I was going for the midair parry. Go. That's a pin. Fortunately, it was going for my companion. Flashbang. There we go. Alright. That noise when the music cuts off means we beat the target And one thing they added as a feature, which I think is kind of interesting from a style perspective, you get a final blow.
Sorry.
Very cinematic at like 15 frames a second, which is a little bit annoying. Apparently in multiplayer hunts, only one person can do that. And it's 3 people to a hunt instead of 4. So you could have a situation where you might land the last hit to get it in that state, but then someone else comes and does the finisher to be the cool guy. I think it's a neat idea, though. And you don't carve. You carve things you break off, like I broke its tail right at the end. But you get all your rewards as soon as the hunt is over, and you're just done. So that does kind of save some time. And gonna stick us back in camp. Yes, now we're back in camp. So I can't actively tell. I think the frame rate is, well, it's better. But it still seems... Maybe it's alright. I can't tell if it's the map or if it was just being in combat that was causing it to slow down like that. Because again, in playing this off stream, just on my own, I haven't noticed any slowdown problems like that at all. I could try and find another target and then see. Or we could go to another map. That might be a better test. So, Minato is the city, your town hub. The Harugasumi Way was where we were going through all the tutorial stuff and talking about weapons. And then this is Area 1, essentially. The Natsukodachi Isle, this is Area 2. This is where we're fighting the chicken. I just opened up a new area, which I haven't done much in story-wise, in 3. And each chapter you progress, I guess the enemy selection changes slightly. So we had a whole bunch of things open up in chapter 1. That's how I got that target. But then in chapter 2, it sort of changes a little bit. And so apparently the point is looking at how the different areas change as you proceed, which is kind of a cool idea. Let me go to the main Area 1. We'll try a hunt there against something big. And let's see if we have the same issues with slowdown. Because I definitely noticed fighting this thing was causing problems on the laptop. And we'll try the gun for this one. More practice with the giant orbital cannon. And we'll see. We'll go for defense, maybe. We'll use a tower to see if we can pinpoint target. Oh, there it is. Way up there on the mountain. Alright. Let's see if we can use a flying vine. I'm going to try and get all the way up on that cliff. Nah, it's too far away. That would be cool, though. slightly limited in the type of spots we can do, but we could probably go like maybe over there and then go up and try it. Not if I jump off, though. I want to do that. There we go. There we go. That's a good example of how the flying vines and zip lines kind of work to map out fast travel. Very handy. I would love to see a feature like that in future Monster Hunter games. Alright, so this is King Tusk. It's a giant boar, like a tree boar. A lot of tree plant type animals with the kimono. Kind of reminds me of Princess Mononoke. Okay, frame rate seems to be alright here. Ow. Gotta keep an eye on my ammo. Oh, that's funny. The small enemy took the hit instead. Alright. Go for it. Okay, yeah, that's definitely less of a prolonged blast. Well, it might have been that I ran out of ammo because I wasn't standing on one of my key bases. Wall. Ah. Hitting the bulwark does incapacitate the kimono for a bit. Shoot point blank. That works. And stay right there. Ah, okay. Don't stay right there. Ah, right in the rear. Too bad they didn't break anything off. And you can tell the kimono are almost dead when they start to limp, just like in Monster Hunter. So I'm not noticing as bad of a frame rate problem here, especially fighting this thing. compared to when I was fighting the chicken. So I don't know if it's the maps or the environment specifically in that part of the map or what, but I don't know. I'll have to tinker around with this some more. Again, I don't want this to look like garbage on stream. People probably won't enjoy that. But worst case scenario, if the performance is really spotty, then we might just have to come back to it once things have been optimized a little bit better. You know, I'm fine with that. Ooh, ball. There we go. Oh, that might have been a little too early. Yep. You get good iframes from the spring, but they're not completely free. You mistime your iframes, you're gonna get clocked. Alright. You need to settle down. Thank you. These take a lot of damage to break the actual tusks. I missed. I was trying to hit it in the foot. They're trying to compare hunt times. Again, this is, I think, what you can consider low rank technically compared to Monster Hunter. Been averaging around 10 to 15 minutes a hunt. When I don't screw up a bunch of my inputs with the cannon, I think I've got it like 5 minutes. Everything else is usually between 10 and 20. Alright, let's see if we can close this out in the next area. Now this place I've noticed some frame issues before when I was playing on my laptop. Did it drop? Where'd it drop? There it is. Ow. Ooh, boy, playing chicken. He's about to run me over. Alright. Find a blow. Iconic says, got to go now. Thanks for showing this game off. I'll have to check this out at some point. Best of luck with the rest of your stream. Alright, Iconic. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out. I understand I've talked for a lot, but hopefully you enjoyed taking a look at this game. Definitely be seeing more of it. Just I will have to make a decision on the actual stream quality. But so we got a hydrate and stretch too. Have yourself a good evening, man. I'll catch you in the next one. We'll be back tomorrow, actually. Matt and I are going to be playing Old Armored Core, so that should be fun. I wonder if VTube Studio is causing some of my computer processing to be diverted away from the game. That's the only thing I can think of for why it would be having trouble maintaining everything on stream, because I'm also running VTube Studio at the same time, which would also be a problem. I'm going to turn my model off. Alright, let's take a look at the actual weapon tree, since I haven't talked about that at all. So similar to Monster Hunter in Wild Hearts, you have base weapons that you craft. Usually they cost just money or simple materials you find in the environment. And then you move down the tree from top to bottom, and each of these nodes represents an upgrade point where you use materials to branch out into different lines. Right now we have the cannon branched into the wood. What is the element that looks like a leaf? Which is the boar cannon line. We have enough materials to branch into the Sol tree line, which is the chicken. And it changes the element from wood to a pretty decently high wind. It's a little cyclone icon. So if you wanted to move into the wind branch, you could do that. But one thing that's kind of unique to this game when it comes to weapon crafting, under inherited skills, there are specific skills that each weapon, in most cases, gets when you upgrade it. And then when you branch into another one, just to show an example here, you can take the inherited skills on the one you've got and move them over to the new one so that you maintain sort of like a genetic legacy of skills as you move across the tree. And that's really neat. Monster Hunter doesn't have anything like that. In fact, there's no skills on weapons at all. It's all tied into armor. And so as you hunt the different Kemono targets and open up different nodes on the tree, like I fought Earthshaker, was one of the big bosses I fought. It seems like this tree on the right focuses on raw damage primarily with some element. I could be wrong. And then on the other side, there is more of an emphasis on element. It's hard to say. But as you proceed down through the paths, you can choose not only what skills you want to pass to the weapons, but which development branches in the path you want to take, which I think is pretty neat. Very familiar, yet different in formula for something like Monster Hunter. And then I think down here is like the end of the tree at the end game. So you work down through the different nodes and develop your upgrades that way. And just like any other game, if you want to have different elements and different weapons, you just craft multiple of them. It's as simple as going down here, crafting a base one for cheap minerals and gold, and then you just start on the tree from wherever direction you want. And so for Maul, I have this one built down into the wood element line, same as the gun. And I think I want to get whatever this is here so I can move down here. Higher wood damage. Overall raw, which is the top number on the right. And then the elemental damage is at the bottom, and then crit rate underneath that. So this gives Fusion Stalwart. Inhibits stamina depletion for a while after conjuring a Fusion Karakuri. Oh, that's cool. So it means after you create something like the big bonking hammer, the wall, the flashbang, you won't have stamina depletion for a bit. Or 10% reduction, I guess. Alright. Well, let's see. What do I want to craft next? I suppose I could try and do some story quests before we wrap up for today. I do want to continue to test the frame rate. Again, a little bit annoyed with how things were dipping on the hunt before the one I just did. So on Chapter 2, these are free hunts. Or we could check out the new area. I have no idea what's here. I haven't done this part at all. This is a mission to escort some people in the new zone. I guess we can check it out. Maybe do some story progress before we wrap it up. All right, base camp here in the canyon. When you unlock a dragon pit, you upgrade it into these different boosted phases here, which increases usually one element capacity, but you need certain advanced materials in order to do that at each level. So I don't have the stuff here for that upgrade. But it does sort of encourage exploration, because the more of those dragon pits you find, the more karakura you can craft in the area. And our point of interest is north. Oh boy, getting stuttering. Out in the different areas, you can find the Tsukumo just hanging around, and when you collect them, they give you pieces that upgrade your main companion here. So again, encouraging exploration, checking the surrounding areas to find more of them will improve your single player hunting companion, which I think is pretty neat too. This is Akikure Canyon. These are new. Mushroom bison? One thing they give you the option to do with the endemic wildlife, you can either kill them outright for materials, or some of them, if you kind of sneak up on them in crouch state, you can pet them, and they give you different materials. That one's not letting me do it. But if you don't want to commit mass animal murder, then you can pet them instead, and sometimes you get better item drops from that too. So this area kind of looks more like ruins, like a town ruin. Here we go. I don't even know what that was, but Slater exoskeleton. All right. I think we need to get higher up. Another type of environmental dragon karakuri I haven't shown off is the wind vortex. This thing creates a big updraft, and you can use it to get a lot of vertical height, and then pop the copter out.
Get away! Damn it! I knew coming here was a mistake. You there! Help us!
Rats?
We're about to be eaten alive!
Alright, they're hostile. So you've chosen death. Weird mushroom rats.
You turned up in the nick of time.
Oh boy, that's a character model.
Expecting to be met by a hunter. But we've all been split up after running into some
We seem to have met
monstrous rat.
Samurai Ron Perlman.
Especially worried about our master carpenter. Saren took it upon herself to lure the wretched thing away into a cave. Please, you have to save her. The Tsuruhashi clan would be nothing without Ren.
Sure.
Thank goodness. Without you, we're all doomed. I'll help you look for everyone. We're in your hands now, Hunter.
They may have spent considerably less time in the character creator with that guy. So all of the main NPCs that you talk to have pretty cool models. I have heard from a couple people that the secondary non-main characters you see in different cutscenes look a little bit less detailed. That's probably a good example of that. Oh, interesting. My ammo doesn't recharge, so I guess it's in my best interest to make sure I top up before I pull the key base back. It's like a leaf bug, I guess. I like the shrine ruins kind of aesthetic here. Does seem choppy though. Ah, okay, so the kind of jagged peak looking rocks are the ones that give us string here.
I can't die. Not here.
More rats?
Is that? Oi! Over here!
Alright. Ah! Get out of here.
Thank the spirits you came when you did. I suppose you must be a hunter. We all ran like the wind when that giant rat, a Sportail was it, came after us. But Ren-san, our master carpenter, made a chase her to save the rest of us. I came back to help her, but I'm not having much luck.
Hey, Edward's here. Edward asks, "What's this?" We were checking out Wild Hearts, a new Monster Hunter type game that came out recently. Spent a lot of time explaining the weapons and mechanics, and now we're doing some story stuff and testing out performance. Performance is dipping a little bit. I'm noticing things like the frame rate kind of dipping down a little bit, when I didn't have that problem playing offline. Alright, where is she now?
That's the trouble. I don't know. But I heard a lot of commotion coming from over there. Come, I can show you. I don't imagine there's much I'll be able to do on my own. Please, say you'll help. Hunt the kimono and rescue our master.
Sure. Yeah, that character model didn't look great either.
I've never been so scared in my life. I'm forever in your debt.
Just like the large kimono, we have a finish prompt that allows us to get whatever materials from things we drop. Let's take our ammo.
You hunters really are amazing, but that's not important right now.
Spore tail. Alright, guess we're heading this way. Ooh. Oh, another Tsukumo. Each map has 50 of those things hidden around. It's kind of incentivizing you to explore, find them all so you can upgrade your little droid companion.
Come on. Don't die on me. Damn it.
Oh, we're going up here. Hoo boy, things chugging.
Poor guy. He only joined the crew recently, too. Bit slow on the uptake, but surprisingly dexterous. He'd have been a great Tsuruhashi carpenter one day. If only. That's right. You must be the hunter from Minato. In that case, I'm going to put you to work. Hunt that wretched Sporetail, would you? It's still sniffing around in there. I'll gather up the rest of my crew. Assuming they're still alive.
Alright, this is where we're getting our objective from. Oh, it's right there. That's convenient. I have not fought this thing before, but it looks like a small type kimono. Like a mouse with a mushroom tail. Oh, I was hoping that wouldn't knock me off my copter. Give me that back. Ooh. What was that? Oh. This thing has minions. Is that sleep mist? Stay still. Ow. Well, I'm gonna have to upgrade my armor. Stay right there. Ah, got interrupted. Might need focus on crowd control since all the little minions are just running around. Yep, that is definitely a sleep status ailment. Let's clear out all you little suckers. Oh no, there's more. Right. Give me that. Oh, come on. Oh. I don't know how obvious it is from the broadcast, but I can definitely see the frame rate dying. Oh, maybe I can get my mortar shot off on these things instead. Or not. All right. I think what I'll do is I will get through this hunt, assuming I don't fail it, and then we will wrap for today. It is difficult to play when the frame rate's being this bad. All right, just up ahead. I got a hydrate from Edward. I feel like I haven't gone through much fuel today. Alright. You see these trees that supply the healing water, and creating the well is what basically tops up all your healing. I'll also have to come back here. Oh, there it is. Oh, I unlocked the bomb. That's nice. Star bomb. It's like a mine. Contact mine. Oh, I'm gonna die. There we go. Ow. It's gonna stay put long enough for me to go for the nuke. That's close enough. Ah, didn't like that. Oh. Thought I could get off the ground faster. Oh, now it's mad. Molten tail. Aw, man, I missed. Think. Yeah, I think I missed. Alright, let's get our ammo down. Ooh, I haven't managed to avoid that every single time. Lucky. How dare you? That was close. But my heat bar was almost empty before I got that off. Uh-oh. I fell asleep on my feet. I've seen that before. Alright, sucker. Lame. This fight might be better served with the Maul, because I can crowd control with its big hits better. But it's out of rage mode, that's good. Right in the butt. Aw. Alright, should be almost done. Looked like it was limping. Where are you? You up top? Or down below? Down below, alright. We can unlock Dragon Pit here. Ooh, you suckers. Get off me. Whoop. Some distance. Alright, I wonder if I can get one more nuke to finish the job. Nope, not if I fall asleep on my feet again. Oh, I see. I've got to wait till the bar empties before I get control again. There it goes. Kind of an obnoxious fight. Oh man. Just like in Monster Hunter, there's a 3-cart limit before you fail a mission. Alright, I'm changing weapons. I'm gonna bring the big hammer. Just have to put a forge down. We can swap equipment here. We don't have any other camps placed yet since I just got to this area, so I'll have to hoof it. But shouldn't take that long to get back over there. And we can unlock some more dragon pits along the way. That makes sense to put a camp somewhere here in the town. I'll figure that out as I play through the map more. Alright, you little stinkers. Oh, is it sleeping? It was literally 2 hits away. That is disappointing. Oh well.
Sorry.
Weird I didn't get the camera switch on the finisher. State Karakuri awakened.
You dealt with it? Thank you.
Alright.
I think we should have a clear run to Minato now. You really got us out of a tight spot there. I managed to round up the rest of my crew. They're a little shaken, but they're all fine. Thanks to you. We'll be heading straight into the town now. Will you be coming with us? In that case, lead the way before some other freakish Kemper finds us.
She kind of looks like Carrie Ann Moss. Alright, let's see where it drops me, then I'll save and we'll wrap up for today. Okay, we're back in Minato. Alright, I guess we can see what gear we got for taking out Mushroom Mouse. When we come back to the town hub proper, we can talk to Natsume here, the blacksmith, and she'll tell us what kind of new weapons and armor we can forge based on things we hunt. So let's see, Sportail over here. Herbal Mall does not have an element. Okay. I wonder if this branches into like sleep status ailment. Interesting. Similar to the path up here, because I think this particular Kemono type is like a subspecies for... This is Ragetail. Looks like a rat with a big flower on its face and a big kind of flower bulb for a tail instead of a mushroom. Okay. Now, armor, I didn't show this off yet. Armor crafting here is pretty similar to Monster Hunter. It's organized by armor type, which you get for taking out the different Kemono. Like this one is a combination of two of them. You need both their bits in order to create the different armor sets. Over here is something I haven't fought yet, plus the Spore Tail. Golden Shard. That's a porcupine, I think. This one, kind of like a more armor looking set. Each of the armor pieces has some have innate skills, some don't. But these ones, Bare Thread, inhibits stamina loss when Karakuri Thread is run out. That's decent. Fatigue Resilience. Decreases chances of becoming fatigued. And then this one, again. Dodge Master. Inhibits stamina loss when dodging attacks are similar. So this is kind of like, what was it? Marathon Runner? Fatigue Resilience. Oh, fatigue. That's the ailment they were hitting me with. Not sleep. Okay. So this is resistance to sleep. That's good to know. We'll need to fight a gold shard if we want to craft this. In addition to the base armor sets you can craft in Wild Hearts, there's also 2 different modification paths you can go down. Human or Kemono. If you go human, I believe it synergizes more with Karakuri. And certain skills only activate when you're on that path. That's what that alignment chart right underneath my hunter means. Right now, I am slanted more towards the Kemono path. But in addition to changing parameters, it also changes the model on some of these, which is kind of cool. So the Kemono path, the helm becomes a lot more horned. The armor's pretty similar. We see a huge difference there. And you get spiky feet instead of regular boots or greaves. Oh, I see. Looks like the trim changes slightly. It's a little more spiky. All right. Nothing groundbreaking. But I'll probably need to go and start hunting some of those other targets to branch out the options I've got in gear. The stuff that I'm wearing now is probably going to be low defense for that new area, which means I'm going to get flattened if I'm not careful. But we'll go ahead and save. And I think I will call that a good stopping point for today. So once again, I hope this was an interesting first look at Wild Hearts. I think this game, again, has a lot of potential and it's incredibly fun. It's just held back by a lot of optimization and performance issues, as evidenced by the fact that I went maybe an hour and a half of just doing the weapon explanations, and it was fine, but as soon as I got into a fight, the frame rate took a dive, and I can immediately tell. And it was a bit of a problem in the last area as well. So what I'll probably do is keep an eye on the patches that come out, and maybe give the devs another round of patches to see if that fixes things, and then we'll jump back in. Because I definitely want to stream this often here, like I was doing for Monster Hunter, but I'm not going to do it if it looks like garbage. And so I'll keep playing through the game, and probably next time I stream it, I'll be further along, and I can explain more things and show off more. But in the meantime, there's plenty of other things we can be mixing in the rotation. We've got Dead Space. Tomorrow, Matt and I will be checking out old Armored Core with Armored Core 3. And so I'll see. Maybe we can play Devil May Cry as the long-term alternate. We'll see. Plenty of options. But before we jump off, let me just pause this. Let me see if anyone I know is online to raid. I see Banani is online. She's doing art. So I will send everything over there and we will say what's up to Banani. So let me go ahead and mute this. We go to outro. And once again, thanks to everyone who came and hung out. We'll be back tomorrow with more Armored Core. So until then, have yourselves a great evening. And I'll commence the raid.